Well, good evening. It is the sixth Sunday of Lent. Otherwise, we would know this as Palm Sunday. And this morning at the Journey, we had a wonderful Palm Sunday celebration, complete with children waving palms. It was awesome. We had a great morning. But this day, today, Palm Sunday, kicks off this 1 week season that we know as Holy Week from Palm Sunday through Easter Sunday. And I love the tagline that says a lot can happen in 7 days. And so we go from Jesus proceeding into Jerusalem on Sunday through Maundy, Thursday, and through Good Friday. And today's passage is a rather long one. So I don't know that there's a lot I'm going to say. I think I'm just going to read this passage because it's all of Mark 14 and most of Mark 15. And I think we'll just leave it at that. But here's a great evening devotional. It kind of sets up this entire week. It's called the Liturgy of the Passion. The Liturgy of the Passion. It's the whole story of Jesus going to the cross. We will take part of this on Good Friday, part of this story. But actually, it will actually take this in 2 nights, both Thursday night and Friday night. But I'm going to read the whole story to you. The whole account that Mark gives to us of the days leading up to Jesus' death. It was now 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The leading priests and the teachers of the religious law were still looking for an opportunity to capture Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the Passover celebration, they agreed, or the people may riot. Meanwhile, Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon, a man who had been previously had leprosy. And while he was eating, a woman came in with a beautiful alabaster jar of expensive perfume made from essence of nard. She broke open the jar and poured the perfume over his head. Some of those at the table were indignant. Why waste such expensive perfume? They asked. It could have been sold for a year's wages and the money be given to the poor. So they scolded her harshly. But Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. Why criticize her for doing such a good thing to me? For you will always have the poor among you, and you can help them whenever you want to. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could and has anointed my body for the burial ahead of time. I tell you the truth, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed." Interesting, Jesus here elevates the role of the woman who came and anoint. And there were some who were just indignant. They're like, this is a travesty. And Jesus says, you know what? You can help the poor anytime you want to. What she wants to do with her gift is just fine. So leave her alone. She is doing what is right to preach the good news. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to the leading priest to arrange to betray Jesus to them. Now, John tells us Judas is one of those who objects to the woman spending the money, and he's also a thief. We'll take a look at that a little bit later this week. They were delighted when they heard why he had come, and they promised to give him money. So he began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal with you?" So Jesus sent the 2 of them into Jerusalem with these instructions. "As you go into the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. As he enters his house, say to the owner, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He will take you to an upstairs to a large room that is already set up. That is where you should prepare the meal." So the 2 disciples went into the city and found everything as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. In the evening, Jesus arrived with 12 disciples. As they were at the table eating, Jesus says, "I tell you the truth. One of you eating here with me will betray me." Greatly distressed, each one asked in turn, "Am I the one?" He replied, "It is the one of you 12 who is eating from this bowl with me. For the Son of Man must die, as the Scriptures declared long ago. But how terrible it will be for the one who betrays him. It would have been far better for that man if he had never been born." Interesting, Judas, at least in Mark's account, Judas, he already knows that he did it. And he's sitting there and he doesn't say a word. As they were eating, Jesus took some of the bread and blessed it, and he broke it into pieces and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take, eat, take it, for this is my body." And he took the cup of wine and gave thanks to it, gave thanks to God for it. And he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And then he said to them, "This is my blood, which confirms the covenant between God and his people. It is poured out as a sacrifice for many. I tell you the truth, I will not drink wine again until the day I drink it new in the kingdom of God." Then they sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. Along the way, Jesus told them, "All of you will desert me. For the Scriptures say, God will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. And after I am raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there." And Peter said to him, "Even if everyone else deserts you, I never will." Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth, Peter, this very night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." "No!" Peter declared emphatically. "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the others vowed the same. They went to the olive grove called Gethsemane, and Jesus said, "Sit here while I go and pray." And he took Peter, James, and John with him. And he became deeply troubled and distressed, and he told them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." And he went a little further and fell to the ground, and he prayed that if it were possible, that the awful hour awaiting him might pass by. "Abba, Father," he cried out, "everything is possible for you. Please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." And then he turned and found the disciples asleep. He said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Then Jesus left them again and prayed the same prayer as before. And when he returned to them again, he found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open. And they didn't know what to say. When he returned to them the 3rd time, he said, "Go ahead and sleep. Have your rest. But no, the time has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Up, let's get going. Look, my betrayer is here." And immediately, even as Jesus said this, Judas, one of the 12 disciples, arrived with a crowd of men armed with swords and clubs. They had been sent by the religious leading priests and the teachers of the religious law and the elders. The traitor Judas had given them a prearranged signal. "You will know which one to arrest when I greet him with a kiss. And then you can take him away under guard." And as soon as they arrived, Jesus walked up to Jesus. "Rabbi," he exclaimed, and gave him a kiss. Then the others grabbed Jesus and arrested him. But one of the men with Jesus pulled out his sword and struck the high priest's slave, slashing off his ear. And Jesus said to them, "Am I some dangerous revolutionary that you come with me with swords and clubs to arrest me? Why didn't you arrest me in the temple? I was there among you teaching every day, but these things are happening to fulfill what the Scriptures say about me." Then all of his disciples deserted him and ran away. One young man following behind was clothed only in a long linen shirt. When the mob tried to grab him, he slipped away out of his shirt and ran away naked. Then they took Jesus to the high priest's home, where the leading priests and the elders and the teachers of the religious law had gathered. Meanwhile, Peter followed him at a distance and went right into the high priest's courtyard. And there he sat with the guards, warming himself by the fire. Inside, the leading priest and the entire high council were trying to find evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death. But they couldn't find any, Many false witnesses spoke against him, but they contradicted each other. Finally, some men stood up and gave this false testimony. We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days I will build another made without human hands. But even then they couldn't get their story straight. Then the high priest stood up before the others and asked Jesus, well, aren't you going to answer any of these charges? What do you have to say for yourself? But Jesus was silent and made no reply. Then the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? And Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the place of power of God's right hand and coming into the clouds of heaven. And the high priest tore his clothing to show his horror and said, why do we need any other witnesses? You have all heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict? Guilty, they all cried. He deserves to die. And then some of them began to spit on him, and they blindfolded him and beat him with their fists. Prophesy to us. They jeered, and the guards slapped him as they took him away. Meanwhile, Peter was in the courtyard below, and one of the servant girls who worked for the high priest came by and noticed Peter warming himself at the fire. She looked at him closely and said, you are one of those with Jesus of Nazareth. Peter denied it. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, and he went out into the entry, and just then a rooster crowed. I've never caught that before. So Jesus said before the rooster crows twice. Peter denied Christ one time and then the rooster crowed. You would think that, aha, but let's go on. When the servant girl saw him standing there, she began telling the others, this man was definitely one of them. But Peter denied it again. A little later, some of the other bystanders confronted Peter and said, you must be one of them because you are a Galilean. Peter swore, a curse on me if I am lying. I don't know this man you're talking about. And immediately the rooster crowed a second time. Suddenly Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. He broke down and wept. Very early in the morning, the leading priests, the elders, and the teachers of the religious law, the entire high council met to discuss their next step. They bound Jesus, led him away, and took him to Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate asked Jesus, are you the king of Jews? Jesus replied, you have said it. Then the leading priests kept accusing him of many crimes, and Pilate asked him, aren't you going to answer them? What about all these charges they are bringing against you? But Jesus said nothing, much to Pilate's surprise. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner, anyone the people requested. And one of those prisoners at the time was Barabbas, a revolutionary who had committed murder in an uprising. And the crowd went to Pilate and asked him to release the prisoner as usual. Would you like me to release to you this king of the Jews? Pilate asked, for he realized by now that the leading priest had arrested Jesus out of envy. But at this point, the leading priest stirred up the crowd to demand the release of Barabbas instead of Jesus. Pilate asked them, what should I do with this man that you call the king of the Jews? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded. What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. So to pacify the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip and then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. The soldiers took Jesus into the courtyard of the governors, called the Praetorium, and called out the entire regiment. They dressed him in a purple robe, and they wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head, and they shouted to him and taunted, Hail, King of the Jews! And they struck him on the head with a reed stick and spit on him and dropped to their knees in mock worship. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off the purple robe and put on his clothes again, and they led him away to be crucified. A passerby named Simon, who was from Cyrene, was coming in from the countryside just then, and the soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross. Simon was a follower of Alexander and Rufus, and they brought Jesus to the place of Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they offered him wine drugged with myrrh, but he refused. Then the soldiers nailed him to the cross, and they divided his clothes and threw dice to decide who would get each piece. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. A sign was fastened to the cross announcing the charge against him. It read, "The King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified with him, one on his right, one on his left. The people passing by shouted abuse, shaking their heads in mockery. "Ha! Look at you now!" They yelled at him. "You said you were going to be you who were going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Well then, save yourself and come down from that cross." The leading priests and teachers of the religious law also mocked Jesus. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down from the cross so we can see it and believe him. Even the men who were crucified with him ridiculed him. At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. Then at 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you abandoned me?" Some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah, and one of them ran and filled a sponge with the sour wine, holding it up to him on a reed stick so he could drink. "Wait! Let's see whether Elijah comes to take him down." And then Jesus uttered another loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn from two, top to bottom. When the Roman officer who stood facing him saw how he had died, he exclaimed, "This man truly was the Son of God." Some women were there watching from a distance, including Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph, and Salome. They had been followers of Jesus and had cared for him while he was in Galilee. And many other women who had come with him to Jerusalem were also there. All of this happened on Friday, the day of preparation. As the day before the Sabbath, as evening approached, Joseph of Arimathea took a risk and went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Joseph was an honored member of the High Council and was waiting for the kingdom of God to come. Pilate couldn't believe that Jesus was already dead, so he called for the Roman officer and asked if he had died yet. The officer confirmed that Jesus was dead, so Pilate told Joseph he could have the body. Joseph brought a long sheet of linen cloth. Then he took Jesus' body down from the cross, wrapped it in cloth, and laid it in a tomb that had been carved out of rock. Then he rolled the stone in front of the entrance. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where Jesus' body was laid.